So today I wanted to talk about two very different rocket launchers. Both of them are exotics, of course, in your heavy slot, and they definitely perform two very different functions and act in very different ways. I'm of course referring to the good old Gjallarhorn and the Rise to Glory Dragon's Breath. They are both solar exotic rocket launchers, the Dragon's Breath being released earlier this season as a season pass exotic of Season of the Wish, and then Gjallarhorn coming during December of 2022 with the 30th anniversary pack, a little over 2 years ago at this point. We'll go ahead and start off by talking about the good old Gjallarhorn first up. So the OG Destiny 1 demon came back to Destiny 2, as we all know, during the 30th anniversary pack, late December of 2022. Of course, the main difference in this game versus Destiny 1 is, of course, the Pack Hunter perk. Now, fun fact, when this weapon first released, it actually had proximity detonation, which made it do less damage on release. Then they took it away, and then they nerfed the Gjallarhorn's damage later on anyways. Just thought that was kind of funny. However, as we all know, in Destiny 2, Pack Hunter gives all of the nearby legendary rockets Wolfpack rounds, and legendary rockets do a lot more damage at base than the G-Horn's gonna do. This weapon had rocket launchers competing with linears pretty damn easily back when linears were at the peak of their powers. Now, part of the insanity was the fact that Wolfpack rounds could just outright chunk parts of bosses' health bars, where the endgame health bar of the boss was receiving more damage than what you were doing just because of the sheer amount of volume of Wolfpack rounds hitting it. Now, they fixed that back at the top of Season of the Witch, so now the Wolfpack rounds don't do extra chunking of damage, and even still, they're absurdly strong. Now, depending on what type of setting you're in, sometimes the Wolfpack rounds itself that the Gjallarhorn provides, depending on how many players are in your fire team, still might not be even worth it. I would say a general decent rule of thumb, somewhere around where you have like 3 people in your fire team, so if you're doing like a dungeon or a low man, the Gjallarhorn's still gonna really help those other Apex Predators in your fire team. However, even still, it might be better for you to put on a legendary rocket or different exotic rocket launcher. That being said though, whenever we all go fight the Witness, you best believe someone's going to be bringing a Gjallarhorn in the fire team. The fire team greatly appreciates it. And just to further push the agenda of Gjallarhorn really being a support weapon in this game versus just it being an overwhelming dominant presence in Destiny 1, when we go ahead and shoot the Grasp of Avarice Ogre just in a well, no surges or anything like that, the only buff we're having is a Well of Radiance. It's really not going to do that much damage, like, at all. Yeah, Wolfpack RNG can be a little bit funky when testing to get an exact number every single time, but no matter of good Wolfpack RNG is going to have this thing doing a lot more damage, especially when you compare it to something like an Apex Predator. It's not even close. However, the strength of the Gjallarhorn doesn't just solely lie in its ability to give Pack Hunter to your other teammates when doing boss damage, as it can also be really useful inside of something like Grandmaster Nightfalls or even just solo lost sectors, as it can really clear out ads really well with its own just, Wolfpack rounds and its catalyst called More Wolves. First of all, it gives you an extra round in the mag, so you always have 2 rockets whenever you reload it, which is great. And then final blows with the Wolfpack round spawn a faster, more powerful missile at that target's location, really helping you clear out rooms. And whether it's a solo lost sector, doing GMs, anything like that, it's going to be very handy. And just wiping out rooms of healthier enemies, a bunch of weaker enemies. There's a reason why Gjallarhorn and Cenotaph are using GMs up and down these days. For a good reason, especially with bipod rockets being really useful these days and allowing you to hold up to so many rockets. Like, you could hold up to like 14, 15 rockets. It can get pretty insane. When you give all of those rockets the Wolfpack rounds, there's not a room that a GM has in which you're not going to be able to clear it out, unless there's a boss in there. It can be a little tricky sometimes. So yes, while it is these days relatively a support weapon, it's still an absolute beast when using it solo, as long as you're not using it for like boss damage. It's always going to be welcome in a fire team, and I would say it defends its reputation relatively well compared to the one that it had in Destiny 1. But now we're going to go ahead and segue over from the Gjallarhorn to our new rising star of the season pass exotics, the one and only Dragon's Breath. Now real quick everybody, I do gotta let you guys know about the homies over at Instant Gaming, whose sole purpose is to help you save money when buying games, and those games is DLC. If you click the top link in the description, you'll be brought to the world of discounted games and discounted games DLC. Very useful, because who doesn't like saving themselves a little bit of greenbacks when spending money on their video games. And they even do a free monthly game giveaway every single month for a free game of your choice. That'll be the third link towards the top of the description. Up until season 23, the last season of Destiny 2, we haven't seen an insane season pass exotic since Witherhoard, aka over 3 years ago. But that bad streak snapped whenever Dragon's Breath, the Shark rocket launcher, made its return from Destiny 1 into Destiny 2. Let me tell you, in Destiny 1, that thing was terrible. It got reworked. It was still terrible. That solar grenade was terrible. All right, let's talk about how gosh darn great this weapon is inside of Destiny 2. The easiest way to explain how this weapon behaves is it's a solar rocket version of the Anarchy, and it just adds passive ignitions on the boss. That's really dope. However, unlike the Anarchy, the Dragon's Breath can auto reload itself, meaning you can slap this bad boy straight into a damage rotation, my man, with relative ease, because the easiest way to tell when this weapon's going to be auto reloaded, even without the catalyst, is just by waiting for the boss that you just shot with your Dragon's Breath to ignite twice. The reason why this weapon behaves like this is because of its high octane perk. Igniting nearby targets partially replenishes fuel. This weapon refills itself from reserves upon gaining maximum fuel, and if you look at its main intrinsic perk, composite propellant, rockets embed themselves in struck targets and periodically eject incendiary fuel that inflicts scorch. The longer this weapon goes without firing, the more fuel the next rocket contains, and the more fuel the rocket contains, the more damage the rocket's going to do. Meaning, you're always going to want to be shooting this rocket when it's at ×5 propellant, and it'll auto reload itself whenever you get to ×5 composite propellant, so you're optimally always shooting it at ×5. Now, if we just want to do a quick little damage comparison versus the Gjallarhorn, we're going to be doing it against the same exact boss in the same exact situation. No Argent Ordnance, no surges, no debuff. We're just standing in a well of radiance and shooting the Grasp of Avarice Ogre boss with one Dragon's Breath rocket. You're gonna see the damage. It's not even close, bro. This thing does well more than double the damage of Gjallarhorn. That's actually pretty darn impressive considering there was no debuff, no surges, no Argent Ordnance. I mean, it still did that. I mean, hey, y'all gotta respect my boy, the Dragon's Breath, on top of its ability to auto-reload itself, man. This means that this rocket launcher is going to be good in quite literally almost every single part of PvE, maybe outside of damage scenarios where you have to burst out so much damage in such a short time frame. Maybe if you're trying to like 1 floor or 2 floor Chimera, the final boss of the Warlord's Ruin dungeon, you wouldn't use it here. But any average, just day-to-day activity, the Dragon's Breath is going to be absolutely a great option. And in any fire team scenario, no matter how many players you have in that fire team, 1 through 6, for boss damage, dude, a Dragon's Breath is 100% going to be used. It is that good of a weapon. And you could even make the argument that you're almost throwing by not using a Dragon's Breath in your fire team for boss damage, because it's that good. You don't have to rocket dump with it. It auto reloads itself without the catalyst, meaning you can throw it straight into a damage rotation and it's going to perform really, really well. It's also solar, so you have a decent amount of weapons to pair with it in your energy slot. My favorite is by far and away the Cartesian Coordinate. Ooh, would have saw that coming. That old solar rapid fire frame fusion rifle that is still just so good. The Eremite is another good fusion rifle to pair with it in the energy slot as well. Or you could maybe go with something like an Ikelos sniper, maybe an Ikelos shotgun. But you have a lot of decent solar special energy weapon choices to choose from to pair with the Dragon's Breath in your heavy slot. And then I'll just mention some of my favorite kinetic weapons to pair with this, especially if you are going to opt in for something like a double special damage rotation. Some of my favorite kinetic specials to use with the Dragon's Breath are the Supremacy Sniper Rifle with either kinetic trimmers or bait and switch, a Lingering Dread from Duality, with auto loading and chill clip, the shatter signal with controlled burst and unraveling orbs in the seasonal artifacts, and you can proc torch for even more damage while you're radiant, and torch works while you're in a well. That's why I mentioned the lingering dread, and that's why a chill clip riptide could also be good in this slot as well. That being said, this thing's a goat. Solo flawless dungeon, Dragon's Breath is going to be there for you. Yes sir, it will. 6-man raids, low man raids, it's gonna cook. It's gonna be there for you. If you had to ask me to put it in a tier on a tier list, S+ easily, bro. This thing's a monster. I love the Dragon's Breath. And on top of that, you can get it as a free-to-play player just by getting to rank like 30 or 35 on the battle pass this season. And the season lasts till June 4th, so you have quite an amount of time to get your hands on this weapon, even if you're a free-to-play player. Absolute beast! Now, you probably don't want to use anything more than 2 Dragon's Breath in your fire team, because at that point, you're kind of fighting each other for getting ignition proc, so it's going to throw off your rotation and your timing if you have everybody in the fire team using a Dragon's Breath. You feel me? So I would only have no more than 2 people using it in a fire team. Just keep that in the back of your head. So where does that leave us? Well, we're left with 2 S-tier rocket launchers. One is going to be good no matter how many people are in your fire team. The other is going to boost the damage of your other legendary rockets in your fire team. However, in no circumstance will you ever have more than 1 Gjallarhorn being used in your fire team. That's just, come on, man. And they're both amazing at what they're supposed to do. And Gjallarhorn is part of the core that allows for some of these insane bakes to take place in the first place that you're able to see. I'm talking about in general, bro, not just in like the video background footage or anything. But Dragon's Breath doesn't even need any help for it to output some pretty awesome damage as well. Now, if you absolutely ask me which one do I think is better at the current moment, I'm leaning towards the Dragon's Breath. It just has so much going for it, and it's really hard to even see a downside to it. Gjallarhorn doesn't really have that many downsides to it either, but you could at least say that it doesn't do that much damage itself. But then you could also say that Dragon's Breath doesn't buff the damage of your other legendary rockets in your fire team. So there's definitely some yin and yang to it. However, at the moment, I would have to give the slightest of edge, pause, to the Dragon's Breath. Let me know down in the comments below which rocket launcher you think is better. And thank you for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed. Consider subscribing. You guys take care. Be safe out there. And we'll see your beautiful faces in the next one. Adios.